Welcome to Thinking Deeper by 6-7. Today we are diving into something that is going to absolutely shake the foundations of how we typically view spirituality. We're looking at a pretty radical perspective that argues God is essentially a psychological crutch, that organized religion is nothing more than a dead rock, and that true spirituality, or what our source calls religiousness, it actually requires the death of God
Right.
and the birth of total individual freedom. It's explosive stuff.
It really is. We're digging into a collection of discourses by Osho, also known as Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh. And I have to say, wherever you stand on this, his deconstruction of, institutional religion versus personal religiousness is just incredibly sharp.
So sharp. And hey, before we really get into the deep end here, just one quick thing. If you like my channel, please subscribe and press the like button. It really, really helps us out.
So we've got this huge stack of his lectures here. And the first thing that just jumps out is the tone. It is not your typical love and light kind of spiritual talk.
Right. I mean, reading this, my first thought was, is this guy an atheist? He sounds more skeptical than most atheists I've read.
Mm-hmm.
He calls God a proven lie in some places, or at least a total fiction. It feels heavy.
It does feel heavy, but I think that's the whole point.
Yeah.
He's not really preaching atheism in the sense of, there is no spiritual dimension.
Hmm.
He's arguing that to get to the real thing, you first have to clear away all the clutter.
Yeah.
And for him, the single biggest piece of clutter is the concept of a God who's in control of you.
So atheism is like a cleaning process.
It's a necessary step. He's saying you have to burn your house down to see the sky.
That's a great way to put it. You have to destroy the roof of dogma to actually see the stars.
And that's where he starts. The first big distinction he makes is this idea of the rock versus the river. It's a metaphor that's it's everywhere in this material.
Okay, let's unpack this. He describes religion like Christianity, Hinduism, Islam, the organized stuff, as a dead rock. Why a rock?
Well, think about a rock. It's static. It just sits there. It might be ancient, it might be impressive, but it doesn't move. It doesn't change. And Osho's argument is that since life is a constant flux, life is always changing.
Right.
Anything that claims to be the final truth and refuses to change is, well, it's dead. It becomes a grave.
So if you're following a rule book from 2,000 years ago, you're basically carrying a tombstone on your back.
You're trying to navigate a living world with a dead map. Exactly. And he contrasts that with religiousness.
Yeah.
He says that is like a flowing river.
It changes course, it adapts.
It adapts, but it always reaches the ocean. It's the difference between a noun and a verb, really. Religion is a thing. Religiousness is a flow.
That makes sense.
He says religiousness isn't an organization. It's a quality of the heart. It's individual. And he makes this really interesting point. We don't have a church of love.
Or temple of love.
Right. Love is just something you feel individually. So why do we need a church of religion? He argues that true religiousness is just as personal as love.
You know, there's this incredible story he tells to illustrate this. I think it's from Leo Tolstoy originally, but he uses it to just hammer this point home. It's about the three peasants.
Oh, I love this story. It perfectly captures the difference between the institution and the actual experience.
Okay, so picture this. There's an island with three uneducated, really simple peasants. They don't know any official prayers, any theology. A Russian bishop hears about them and decides he has to go save their souls. So he visits them and he asks, how do you pray?
And they're super embarrassed.
Right, totally. They say, well, we don't really know the official prayers. We just say, you are three, we are three, have mercy on us, referring to the Trinity, I guess.
And the bishop is just horrified.
Horrified, he says, that is not a canonical prayer. That's disrespectful. So he spends the entire day drilling them on the official, long, complicated church prayer. They struggle with it, they forget it, but finally they get it down.
And he feels great about himself, like he's done his job.
Oh yeah, he's very proud. I've saved these ignorant souls. He gets back on his boat to leave.
And here's where it gets good.
This is the best part. The boat is way out in the middle of the water, and the bishop sees something coming up behind him. It's the three peasants, and they are running on top of the water.
Just casually breaking the laws of physics.
They catch up to the boat, all out of breath, and they say, Bishop, Bishop, we forgot the words. Please teach us again. We don't want to be sinners.
And what does the bishop do?
He just crumbles. He sees them standing on the water and realizes that his religion, his rank, his memorized prayers, it couldn't do that. But their religiousness, their innocent, direct connection, that was real.
So he tells them to just forget his prayer.
He says, forget my prayer. Go back and stick to yours. It's such a powerful image. The dead rock of dogma sinks, but the river of innocent connection just flows.
Exactly. The peasants had the connection. The bishop only had the contact info. And this leads us right into the most controversial part of his argument.
Hmm.
If religiousness is this natural flowing thing,
Yeah.
why did we invent this rigid God figure in the first place?
The psychological crutch. Yeah, he doesn't pull any punches here at all. He calls God the support for the psychologically crippled.
It's harsh. But let's look at the reasoning. He argues that we humans have this deep-seated need to feel needed. But the universe, it's
Right.
just indifferent. The sun rises whether you're happy or sad.
So that indifference is terrifying. It makes us feel lonely and insignificant.
Terribly. So like a child clutching a teddy bear in the dark, we invent a father figure, someone who's watching us, someone who cares, someone who has a plan for us.
Right. It makes the universe feel less like a cold, empty void.
And he brings up that famous quote from Albert Camus, the philosopher. Camus said, "If God did not exist, we would have to invent him."
Because we need that comfort so badly.
But Osho adds a twist. He says, if God existed, we would have to abolish him.
Whoa. Okay, unpack that. Why abolish him?
Human dignity. The source argues that if there really was an omnipotent, all-seeing God who created us, watched over us, controlled our fate, we would never be truly free. We would always be in his debt. We'd be puppets, slaves.
It's the ultimate authority figure. If he's always there, you can never truly grow up.
You never can. For man to be fully free, fully responsible, the father has to go. You have to, grow up and move out of your parents' house, cosmically speaking. If you're always looking up to the sky for permission or forgiveness, you're staying a child forever.
It's the ultimate declaration of independence then.
It is. And he points out this paradox I find fascinating. He says God, the creator, has been absent since the sixth day. He's on an eternal vacation. But look at the world. Look at history. Who's actually running the show?
He lists people like Genghis Khan, Hitler, Stalin, corrupt politicians. He says these are the people who represent the devil, the active, destructive force.
Right. The irony he points out is that God is supposedly the creator, but the devil, these destructive forces, they seem to be managing the world. If you just look at history, it looks a lot more like the devil's work than a benevolent father's.
It's a pretty compelling point. If the father is watching, he's doing a terrible job of intervening. So the source is basically saying, stop waiting for it.
Stop waiting. Stop projecting your needs onto the sky and take the reins yourself.
Yeah.
But of course, there's a whole industry built to keep you from doing that.
Which brings us to the business of guilt. He has this analogy that it's dark, but it's also kind of hilarious. He compares organized religion to a specific scam.
The tar analogy.
Yes. So he tells a story about these two partners in crime. One guy goes around at night and throws tar on people's windows, just blacks them out completely.
And then the next morning,
The next morning, his partner shows up with a bucket and a ladder and says, "Hey, I clean windows." And the people are so grateful, they pay him to clean up the mess his own partner made.
and they split the profits 50-50.
But, Osho says, the priest is both men.
It's a scathing critique. The argument is that religion first throws the tar by condemning your natural...
Your natural instincts,
Right.
things you want to do anyway.
Exactly. He focuses heavily on sex and food. By making your own biology a sin, religion guarantees that every single human is automatically a sinner. You can't help it.
So they create the disease guilt.
And then, conveniently, they set up shops selling the cure.
Mm.
Salvation, confession, forgiveness. And it always comes with a price, whether that's money or just total submission to their authority.
It's a captive market. If you have a body, you're a customer.
And you notice the killjoy aspect of it?
Yeah.
There's a line in the source that says, if something gives pleasure, it is forbidden. He argues there's a strategic reason for that.
Happy people don't need a future heaven.
Exactly. Happy people are rebellious. They're enjoying the now. If I'm miserable, I'm desperate for the afterlife. If I'm happy, I'm fine right here, thanks.
It makes sense. To keep the business running, you need people to be miserable, guilty, and afraid. It's the only way to sell them a ticket to paradise.
And he says you can't fight nature. If you try to enforce these unnatural laws, you don't create saints. You create neurotics. You create people who are psychologically split, who hate themselves for just being human.
So, if we strip away the guilt, we strip away the father figure, what's left? How are we supposed to interact with the universe? This is where he talks about reframing prayer.
Right, and this connects back to the peasants. He says traditional prayer is usually just begging, give me this, save me from that, why did you do this to me? He calls it a cosmic complaint box.
I think we've all been there. Please let me get this job, or, please let my team win the game.
Exactly. But he suggests that real prayer isn't a request. It's a feeling. It's gratitude. It's simply saying thank you. And not to a specific guy with a beard, but to everything, to
And
existence,
to the trees, the stars.
the mountains. It's a celebration of life, not a petition for better circumstances. And this leads to his critique of selflessness, which is a huge pillar in most religions.
We're always taught to be selfless, to serve others first.
But the source just flips this on its head. He says you must be selfish first.
That sounds so counterintuitive. Aren't we supposed to be altruistic?
Think about the analogy he uses. If you're a beggar, spiritually poor, empty inside, what can you give to other people?
Nothing.
Nothing. You can't share wealth you don't have. He argues you have to be selfish in the sense of building your own spiritual abundance first. You have to be overflowing with your own joy, your own silence. Only then does sharing happen naturally.
It's like the safety briefing on an airplane. Put on your own oxygen mask before assisting others.
That's a perfect analogy. If you try to help others while you're suffocating, you both just die, he says. Meditate, fill yourself up, become an emperor inside. Then, you don't even have to try to be altruistic, your joy will just spill over.
So, the mechanism for that, for filling yourself up, is meditation. But he defines it really differently. It's not about concentrating on a candle or chanting a mantra.
No, he makes a big distinction between concentration, which strengthens the mind, and meditation, which he says is about dropping the mind.
Dropping the mind, what did that even look like?
It's the practice of witnessing, just watching your thoughts pass by like clouds in the sky. You don't judge them, you don't cling to them, you don't push them away, you just watch.
And what happens?
The claim is if you watch long enough, the thoughts start to thin out, and eventually, they just stop. And what's left in that gap?
Silence.
Silence. And for Osho, that silence is the language of true religiousness. That's where you meet the divine, not in a book, but in the gap between your thoughts.
Which brings us to my favorite concept in this whole deep dive, Zorba the Buddha.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant synthesis. It's his proposed solution to the whole human condition.
So for anyone who doesn't know, Zorba is from the novel Zorba the Greek. He's earthy, he loves wine and food and dancing, the physical world.
Right. And Buddha, of course, represents the peak of spiritual awareness, of silence.
And usually these two are seen as total opposites.
They're enemies. You have the materialist West, which is Zorba, and the spiritual East, which is Buddha. And the source argues that this split is what makes humanity miserable. If you're only Zorba, you're hollow. You have all the pleasure but no soul.
And if you're only Buddha, you're dry. You're denying the beauty of the world. You have a soul, but no life.
So he says, be both. Be Zorba the Buddha.
Keep your feet on the ground, enjoy the sunset, enjoy your food, enjoy the dance.
But keep your head in the stars. Have the silence of the Buddha inside while living the vibrant life of Zorba on the outside. Don't divide body and spirit. Be whole.
It's a really appealing idea. You don't have to go live in a cave to be spiritual. You can be spiritual while enjoying a good meal with your friends.
In fact, he would argue that enjoying that meal with total awareness is the spiritual act. If you could be fully present with the wine and the dance, you are closer to godliness than a monk fasting in a cave who is secretly dreaming of food.
So, wrapping this all up, we've covered a lot of ground here. From dead rocks to running peasants to tar-throwing priests. What's the mission?
The mission of this source material is really just one thing: liberation. It's an attempt to liberate you, the listener, from the chains of tradition, from the fear of a judgmental God, and from the guilt that holds you back.
It's about taking responsibility. If there's no one controlling you, you're in the driver's seat.
Which is terrifying. But it's also exhilarating. It forces you to grow up.
It really does. It shifts the whole focus from believing the right things to experiencing the right things.
Correct. It moves from faith to awareness.
And I think that leads us to the final provocation for today. We always like to leave you with something to chew on.
Yeah. The source really poses this ultimate challenge. We spend so much of our lives filling the silence with noise, with entertainment, with prayer, with worries. But if you strip all that away, if you take away the fear of hell and the greed for heaven and the comfort of a father figure looking out for you, what is left?
Just you.
Just you and the silence. And the question he leaves you with is, do you have the courage to face that silence? Because according to this source, that silence isn't empty. It's the only true religion there is.
That is a powerful place to leave it. Thank you all for listening to this breakdown of a truly radical perspective. This has been Thinking Deeper by 6-7. We'll see you on the next deep dive.